Imagine a military machine that never runs out of fuel, a tank that powers itself, silently moving across the battlefield, unstoppable and untraceable. For decades, the Pentagon has poured billions into futuristic warfare technology. But the breakthrough didn't come from Washington, Moscow, or Beijing. It came from Africa. And the man behind it is Maxwell Chikumbutso, the self-taught Zimbabwean inventor who has stunned the world yet again. Maxwell Chikumbutso is no stranger to controversy. Known for building self-powered cars, drones, and helicopters, he has long claimed to bend the very rules of energy. While skeptics dismissed him, his latest creation has forced even the Pentagon to sit up and take notice. The self-powered military tank. Unlike conventional tanks that rely on diesel engines, complex refueling logistics, and massive budgets, Chikumbutso's tank generates its own power. No fuel convoys, no refueling stops, just limitless mobility and endurance. For years, whispers of his technology have circulated online, but with a working tank in play, the silence from Washington speaks louder than words. Whether they admit it publicly or not, the U.S. defense establishment cannot ignore a machine that promises unlimited power in the battlefield. But beyond military power lies a deeper story, a self-taught African inventor challenging the global balance of innovation. If Chikumbutso's technology proves real and scalable, it doesn't just reshape defense, it redefines energy itself. Cars, planes, homes, cities, all power without fuel or the grid. And perhaps that's why his inventions are so controversial. Because if true, they threaten not only the defense industry, but the entire global energy market. So, is Maxwell Chikumbutso's self-powered tank the real deal, a weapon of the future that even the Pentagon fears? Or just another invention shrouded in mystery? One thing is certain. Innovation is no longer bound by borders, and the next technological revolution might just be coming from the most unexpected places. Still, here's the catch. If it doesn't work, why are global defense agencies paying attention? Why the silence from institutions that usually dismiss such claims within minutes? Silence in itself can be the loudest signal. Chikumbutso's journey only makes the story more fascinating. Born in Zimbabwe, with no formal engineering degree, he began experimenting as a teenager. By his 20s, he was already showcasing prototypes of wireless transmitters, drones, and electric cars. Now, years later, his self-powered tank may be the most disruptive invention yet. If Maxwell's tank is real and functional, the balance of military power changes dramatically. Nations that once relied on superpower support for military technology could now leapfrog into self-sufficiency. Armies could move without supply chains. Wars of attrition could lose their meaning. And here lies the Pentagon's silent fear, a future where war machines are no longer limited by fuel, only by imagination. But this is just the beginning. Because if a self-powered tank is possible, what about a self-powered fighter jet, a warship, or even civilian megacities running without fossil fuels or nuclear plants? Maxwell Chikumbutso has opened a door that the world might not be ready to walk through. And behind that door lies a future that could either liberate humanity or rewrite the rules of global power forever. The Pentagon now faces a dilemma unlike any other. On one hand, acknowledging Maxwell Chikumbutso's tank means admitting that a self-taught African inventor may have leaped ahead of America's trillion-dollar defense industry. On the other hand, ignoring it carries its own risks. Because if this technology spreads, the U.S. could lose its long-standing dominance on the battlefield. Behind closed doors, insiders suggest that teams of analysts and engineers are quietly dissecting every shred of information about Chikumbutso's work. Could reverse engineering be the Pentagon's true goal? If so, it wouldn't be the first time the U.S. has tried to replicate groundbreaking foreign technology in silence. But here's the twist. The Pentagon isn't the only one watching. China, Russia, and other rising powers are already racing toward next-generation energy weapons and autonomous machines. If Chikumbutso's tank is proven, it's not just America that will feel threatened. It's the entire balance of global power. Imagine a world where smaller nations, often dismissed as militarily insignificant, suddenly wield machines that need no fuel, no refueling stations, and no logistical chains. That's not just a disruption. It's a revolution in warfare. Yet, the strangest part of this story isn't just the Pentagon's silence, it's the silence of science itself. Universities, think tanks, and military contractors rarely shy away from debunking bold claims. But in this case, very few are speaking out. And this leaves us with burning questions. If Chikumbutso has cracked self-sustaining energy, why isn't the world embracing it openly? Is his work being suppressed, hidden from the public eye to protect trillion-dollar oil and defense industries? Or is it all part of a larger game, where the truth is too disruptive for the world to handle right now? But behind the silence, whispers point to something darker. Powerful energy lobbies, oil cartels, and defense contractors of billions, even trillions, at stake if self-powered technology goes mainstream. Imagine fleets of vehicles, tanks, and even aircraft running without fuel. Entire industries would collapse overnight. Is it possible that forces bigger than governments are already moving to suppress Chikumbutso's breakthroughs? After all, history is filled with stories of disruptive inventors who suddenly vanish, their patents buried, their names erased from headlines. Sources close to Chikumbutso claim he has faced threats, bribes, and offers from powerful entities, all urging him to hand over his designs or remain silent. Yet he continues to build, continues to reveal, and now continues to challenge the most powerful military on Earth. But if the Pentagon truly sees his self-powered tank as a threat, what happens next? Do they attempt to buy him out quietly? Do they discredit him publicly? Or do they simply take the technology by force under the banner of national security? And yet, this story isn't just about tanks or even about the Pentagon. It's about Africa, a continent often painted as a consumer of technology, suddenly standing at the frontier of a possible energy revolution. Chikumbutso's tank is not just a weapon. It's a symbol that the next great leap in science and defense may not come from Silicon Valley, Moscow, or Beijing, but from Harare.
The question is no longer if Maxwell's technology will surface. The question is when. And when it does, will it ignite a new golden age for humanity or plunge the world into a shadow war unlike any we've ever seen? Deep inside a nondescript warehouse on the outskirts of Harare, something extraordinary is taking shape. To the outside world, it looks like just another industrial building, faded walls, rusted gates, no signboards. But those who have managed to slip past the fences whisper of machines unlike anything seen before. Rows of experimental prototypes hum quietly in the dark. Engines with no exhausts. Consoles powered without wires. A faint vibration in the floor as though the building itself is alive. And in the center, guarded and hidden, sits Maxwell's latest mystery, a massive frame under heavy tarps, its shape only barely visible. Some say it is the skeleton of a self-powered aircraft. Others whisper of something even more ambitious, a hybrid platform that can travel by land, air, and water without a single drop of fuel. What Maxwell doesn't know, or perhaps he knows all too well, is that eyes are already inside. Intelligence agencies have infiltrated his circle. A technician who seems too eager, a journalist asking too many questions, a partner offering suspicious funding. Every conversation is monitored. Every shipment tracked. Every circuit board he orders triggers alerts in databases oceans away. The Pentagon's silent war is no longer about tanks or drones, it is about information. And right now, they're trying to steal Maxwell's secrets piece by piece. But Maxwell is not defenseless. His lab is layered with countermeasures. Decoy blueprints scattered online. False trails leading spies into dead ends. Even his engineers work in isolation, each given only fragments of the full design. None of them know the complete secret, only Maxwell does. And so, the game becomes a stalemate. Spies collect fragments they cannot assemble, while Maxwell builds machines they cannot comprehend. It is a race of shadows, with the balance of global power hanging in the outcome. Meanwhile, outside the shadows, the world begins to stir. Leaks of grainy footage appear on obscure forums. A tank moving without noise. A drone hovering for days. Anonymous insiders whispering about a new African Tesla, except this Tesla builds machines that could rewrite empires. Global media begins to circle, hesitant but curious. Governments deny. Corporations mock. And yet, The footage grows harder to ignore. Somewhere, in a warehouse in Zimbabwe, the impossible is already real. The leaks grow bolder. At first, they were blurry images on obscure forums. But now, high-definition footage emerges. A massive armored tank rolling across rugged terrain, no fuel trucks behind it, no exhaust, no noise but the grinding of its treads. It accelerates uphill without slowing, then halts in silence, as though powered by some invisible force. Within hours, the video floods across social media platforms. Millions watch in disbelief. Has Africa produced the first truly self-powered war machine? Newsrooms scramble. Anchors stutter. Analysts are torn between skepticism and awe. The Pentagon, meanwhile, maintains complete silence, refusing to confirm, refusing to deny. And that silence speaks louder than words. As the footage spreads, markets begin to tremble. Oil futures plunge. Defense stocks waver. Energy analysts predict catastrophic losses if self-powered technology proves scalable. Lobbyists in Washington, Riyadh, and Moscow sound alarms, warning of a future where pipelines and oil fields become relics of the past. For decades, the global economy has run on fuel. Now, a single African inventor threatens to turn it all into history. In Africa, the reaction is electric. Leaders and citizens alike see the footage not just as an invention, but as proof that the continent can lead the world into a new technological era. Hashtags trend. Speeches are made. For the first time in history, Africa is not seen as a consumer of technology, but as the birthplace of a revolution. But with hope comes danger. Because as Africa celebrates, global powers sharpen their knives. Inside intelligence circles, the debate ends. The video is real. The tank exists. And now, containment is no longer an option. What follows is a race not for truth, but for control. Black ops teams are greenlit. Corporate espionage intensifies. Hackers launch coordinated attacks on Maxwell's digital footprint. Somewhere in a darkened office, a file is stamped with a single word: acquisition. But as the world closes in, Maxwell Chikumbutso does something unexpected. He doesn't run. He doesn't hide. He prepares. Rumors say he has been quietly building not just machines, but alliances. African tech networks, sympathetic investors overseas, even hidden supporters within rival militaries. Because Maxwell knows the storm is coming. And when it breaks, he intends to be ready. The world could no longer look away. The footage of Maxwell's self-powered tank had already changed perceptions, but what came next changed history. One night, under tight security, Maxwell Chikumbutso unveiled his creation to the world, not in secret, not behind closed doors, but on a live broadcast streamed across continents. Cameras captured the tank rolling across the plains of Zimbabwe, then stopping. Generators were checked. Fuel tanks were shown empty. And still, it moved, faster, stronger, longer than any machine of its kind. The impossible was undeniable. The silence of the Pentagon shattered. In Washington, a press conference was hastily arranged. With cameras flashing, a Pentagon spokesperson stepped up, his face tight, his words carefully chosen. "We are aware of recent demonstrations. We are evaluating the situation." It was not a denial. It was not dismissal. For the first time, the world's most powerful military acknowledged Maxwell Chikumbutso. Markets reeled. Oil prices plunged. Defense contracts evaporated overnight. Nations once reliant on imported fuel began reaching out to Africa, seeking partnership, seeking access. Suddenly, the balance of global power tilted. Africa, long underestimated, now held the key to limitless energy. And Maxwell Chikumbutso, the self-taught inventor once mocked and ignored, had become the most sought-after man on Earth. But Maxwell made a choice few expected. Instead of selling his designs to the highest bidder, instead of siding with a single superpower, he announced something radical: the technology would be shared with Africa first. Self-powered vehicles. Self-powered homes. Self-powered cities. What began as a tank meant for war became the foundation for peace, progress, and independence. For the first time in centuries, Africa was no longer chained to the engines of others. It was building its own. And so, a single invention, born in a modest workshop in Zimbabwe, shook the Pentagon, terrified empires, and inspired billions. The world will remember the tank. But history will remember the man who dared to challenge the impossible. Maxwell Chikumbutso, the inventor who forced the world to ask, what if power itself no longer belonged to the few, but to all of us?